Aloha! We're here in Honolulu, Hawaii for the Plant Biology 17 Annual Conference. I'm your host, Rishi Masalia, and we're between the palms. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Between the Palms. Today, I'm joined by Udaya. So, Udaya, can you tell us a little bit about your research at Oak Ridge National Laboratory?
Sure. So my research program is primarily guided by what the DOE BER program interests are.
Okay.
The research is funded by DOE as we are a DOE National Lab.
Okay.
Some of the major programs that we're working on are Biology Science Center research.
Mm-hmm.
And then plant microbe interactions. And I was here to give a talk on plant microbe interactions research. So yeah, those are the primary projects that we work on.
Perfect. So, I don't know a lot about national laboratories or national laboratory settings. Do you know how many national laboratories we actually have in the United States? Is it a lot, or a few, or a lot, or?
It's quite a few national labs that we have in this country. It's spread all over West Coast, East Coast, Midland. But I think they differ in their nature of being either a facility that is funded
Okay.
by a federal agency,
Mm-hmm.
or it is a research entity for a science lab. In terms of the science national labs, I think we have about 6 or 7 of those in
Okay.
this country.
So, my understanding also is that these national labs are highly multidisciplinary, right? You have a lot of, for instance, biochemists or plant biologists or biophysicists or fields like that. Is that true? Is that the case?
Yes, that is correct. So within our national lab, which
Yeah.
is Oak Ridge National Laboratory,
Mhm.
one of the biggest directorates we had was physical sciences.
Okay.
And within that, we have the material science technology division, chemical sciences division. Then we have the spallation neutron sources that also is within the lab. All of these are with a physics and material science bent.
Okay.
And then we have another directorate that is composed of 4 different computational sciences
So these are
divisions.
all bioinformatic or
They're not all related to biology because they
Okay.
support
Right.
material science research or fundamental particle physics
Okay.
or
So
something
these
on
are
the chemistry side.
Right. These are very different disciplines.
Yeah,
on some
they're
levels.
yeah, and there we come in our biological sciences
Yeah.
program
Mhm.
within the biosciences division, where we are sitting next to these experts in other fields.
Right.
And so we have this creative opportunity to reach out without much of a
That much of an effort, right? They're just
right,
they're right
much
there.
of a hassle. They're right
Yeah.
there. So have them over for coffee or just have lunch with them in the
Right.
cafeteria and discuss a project. We have avenues within the lab and also within DOE to then connect these varied expertise in the different programs and different divisions to leverage that to move the frontiers of our field itself. So within the biosciences division, we have the microbial scientists, and then we have the plant scientists, and we have the human sciences
Right.
researchers. In the plant sciences arena, then, for example, what I do is I work with imaging scientists who are imaging materials, various types of alloys, at the nanoscale and angstrom level. And they have those imaging capabilities that are developed and robust. They haven't been tested on plant systems.
Oh,
Some
really?
of those could be widely useful in pinning down or expanding our understanding of what we see at the whole plant level as a phenotype.
Right.
For example, we use SNP association genetics approach
Okay.
to select individuals from a population of Populus strigocarpa for greater biomass productivity.
Right.
But if you were to really understand what's happening in terms of the mechanism, the fundamental mechanism in the plant that has resulted over several months of plant growth into greater biomass productivity, we really want to look at the individual cells and what's happening within the cells and how cells within a given genotype are different from the comparator genotype.
So it's more of a whole systems
so,
approach.
Right, so there's a vast amount of opportunity at that cellular level, which also happens to be a missing link right now in our understanding of what, on the project that I'm working on, which is the Bioenergy Research Project, to understand the fundamental mechanisms of biomass formation.
That's awesome. So you can definitely say that collaborations within the Oak Ridge National Laboratory are really valuable.
They are really
to promoting your work.
Right, and not just in terms of expertise that I mentioned, in terms of the physical scientists that are there and then the computational scientists that may be on the campus, but in terms of facilities. So national labs, each of the national labs is characterized by a unique facility that is federally funded, and it's there for the entire science community, not just for the national lab research. So they have user programs, and for example, we have a CNMS facility, which is a Center for Nanophase Materials Research Center, but it has all the suites of imaging tools that I talked about. And a user program that is probably semi-annual, and the information is on the website and everything. But that is open to academia.
So you can also have collaborations then through the facilities with other like academics or other people outside of the national laboratory. Do you have collaborations with other national laboratories in that case? So not just within Oak Ridge, but other hotspots around the country?
Absolutely, like I mentioned that. So the investment in national labs is really for that purpose to serve or address some of the pressing national challenges in terms of science and research. But also serve as those centers that could be hubs for local universities or regional research centers in terms of the user facilities they have and attract users from the local and the national arena. So each of the national labs have their unique facilities, and so we see merit in collaborating with them because we have something they don't have, and so we are also one of the users for them in that sense. But I should mention that the big programs that we're working on that are funded by DOE, say for example, Bioenergy Research Center project that we have, has 19 different collaborators outside of Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So our research model is more in terms of collaboration and then consortium than just single PI research.
I was about to ask, so in terms of the direction of where the research is going, you have your own lab, right, at Oak Ridge. But if this is more of a collaborative environment, who kind of picks the direction where your lab or other labs are going?
Right. So again, we are quite aligned with what the agenda is at the national. DOE is, and what challenges they pick up as their own, because each of the federal agencies have their own niche area with USDA or Forest Service or DOE or NSF, and there are programs that are actually cross-cutting. For example, the USDA DOE Feedstock Genomics program is cross-cutting, and so they come together, but mostly they have their niche areas, and so that's niche areas, and that's where we come in, and we were fully aligned with DOE and their priorities. And there could be priorities that have been identified for longer term, which is 5+ years, or near term, which could be for a year or two. And we always have a balance between long-term priorities and short-term opportunities. And it's a mix of doing research within those large DOE projects, which have longevity, and also working with colleagues in both national lab and academic settings to drive the agenda for what the next decade of research would look like.
So it's
So
kind
we
of
are
like a
doing a lot
feedback
of,
cycle, yeah,
right, we're
yeah.
doing a lot of synthesis for vision development for the future and positioning projects, groups, and individuals to be on that path of success
Right.
and continuing the important research for a longer time horizon.
So how does funding work at a place like Oak Ridge? Do you get, I would imagine that most of your funding comes from places like DOE or the
Right.
national level.
Right.
Do you get funding from outside locations? Like, can you apply for other grants outside of DOE?
It's one of the first things that people often misunderstand about the DOE National Lab system is that we are on hard salaries,
Okay.
but really we're on soft money. So we're bringing in new money competitively every year. To the programs that we respond to, if there's a request for proposals or FOA by DOE, it's an open competition. And so we are responding to that open competition, and we are being reviewed by the peers in the community,
Okay.
just like for any other
So that's the soft
funding
money.
agency. That's the soft money. And so
Okay.
we are on soft money that way.
Okay.
A portion of that, a large portion of that does come from DOE, but then we may also have other sources of research funding, which could be both internal, where we have the directors, high risk, high return projects, which are called LDRD funding, which goes from about 2 years of funding to hopefully after that having a return of investment on that funding with a federally funded program at the end of it.
Okay.
But that really promotes the creativity that we have, at the opportunity for creativity that we have at
Right.
the lab, because that allows us to go after risky concepts that don't have a proof of principle or whose concept has not been proven in the field, and we are allowed that risk with internal money to
Right.
explore in that space, and if that works, then that's the basis to build a bigger program.
Yeah, okay.
And those could be anything that lets us look at things and observe things that we couldn't observe before. So collect data from a spatiotemporal realm that we weren't able to before,
Yeah.
or analyze things in a manner that we weren't able to analyze before. It could be any of that, just observe or analyze in a way. So analyze, I would also say model come with
Right,
that.
okay.
So having a vast amount of computational expertise at the lab really helps us
Facilitates that,
facilitates that. So that's I think.
Perfect. So for
Oh,
those,
Sorry, I would say that the other source of funding we could have is through CRADAS, which is a joint agreement between an industry
Okay.
and a national lab researcher, or a group of researchers in the national lab, which is set up to address a specific need for that particular industry in their R&D sector. If they came up with a potential solution, but they had difficulties getting a fundamental breakthrough in their own R&D area,
right.
we can come in there and we can help with that, especially if the expertise already rests with the national lab.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So for those young scientists who are interested in pursuing careers outside of academia or outside of industry, do you have any advice for them in terms of either applying or getting in the door at a national lab?
Right. First of all, I would say that I started as a postdoc at this lab,
Okay.
and it's been a great experience for me doing postdoc here, because the opportunities are tremendous. Literally, a person could be like a kid in a candy store and could be distracted if they aren't sure of what they
Right,
want out
right.
of their career.
'Cause there's so many
There's
things and so
so
many
many
things,
things and so many opportunities and so many directions that one could lead their career, which may not be where they came from in their PhD.
Right.
And so it gives you that opportunity to
just go and
start
explore.
over. Yeah, explore
go and
that.
explore.
So as long as you're open and enthusiastic about that postdoc period, it would be fantastic to come in an environment like this. Like Oak Ridge National Laboratory would offer, I would say, something which is like a blend of a university postdoc versus going to industry.
Right.
Because industry would be very applied and you would be given very defined problems.
Right, whereas
And
academia is
you're
very
not
open.
really, exactly, and you're not defining your problems
Right.
in an industry setting. And university, it's pretty focused, and you focus for the 2 years on that problem, you know. And so in the national lab environment, what's like the university is the research environment, is that it is research focused. We are really interested in the impacts of our publications, the number of publications we are putting out as a group, which journals they're going to, who we are co-authoring with, and so we're very conscious about the quality of the research and the pace of our research, and just whether we've moved the needle on the fundamental understanding of a colossal biological
And that
problem that sounds like an applied problem, but we really
the base fundamental science
fundamental.
of it. And that sounds very academic, right?
Right, so that's the academic aspect of it that a postdoc would enjoy, the continuity on, and even if they were to move on from that 2-year postdoc stint to doing something else, would reflect really well on the resume because of how research-centric that is and how science productivity-centric that is. The other aspect is then just working on applied problems and having a bigger context to the problem you're working on. And these are global issues, national issues, so you find meaning in your work. Every day you're coming to work, your meaning, the meaning in your work is already there. So it's very fulfilling that way. Also, which is unique, which is probably not found as much in the university side or industry, but heavily so in the national lab system, is the interdisciplinary nature of things and how someone with that bent or openness could just escalate and just take their research to a whole nother level and be at the forefront of their own research fields because of combining varied discipline and applying that to a unique problem and solving it with the tools that were uniquely available to you.
So is there anything that students who are interested in getting a postdoc, say at a national lab, is there anything that you would look for, like on a CV or in an email or something, that would maybe set them apart?
No, I think our process is pretty much like it is in a university.
Traditional academic setting.
Yeah, so we're looking for someone with a solid publication track record. So it's not papers in prep. We're really favoring individuals with, for example,
people that have accepted papers and
for example, the latest postdoc that was candidate that was accepted for a postdoc position in the group had 7 papers in their PhD, and so that's the first layer how we are screening. But then we always have an interview on campus, so that is, and as part of the interview, they're meeting our colleagues from other divisions and other projects. So that's also a way for us to gauge how they take to an environment and a culture that could be quite dynamic and could be the right match if the individual had the enthusiasm and openness to it,
so
aptitude for it.
It seems like the first kind of CV paper screen is how many publications do you have if they're accepted, and then if that goes forward and you have an interview, it's a lot of soft skills, right? How well do you interact with people? How well do you engage with people? How well can you collaborate if you're going to be a good collaborator in the future?
Absolutely, that's true.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been another episode of Between the Ponds. Udaya, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. And we'll catch you next time.